Welcome. This video is on fractions, percents, decimals, rounding, all of the above. So we're going to do a little bit of everything here, and I'm going to kind of go through this, some questions maybe a little bit quicker than others. But equivalent form of numbers, right? Writing numbers in more than one way that mean the same thing. So on this first page, we're just going to reduce some fractions. Now, when you're reducing fraction, your goal is to find something that goes into the numerator and the denominator evenly. So if we're looking at number 1, 28 and 42, there's a whole host of ways to do this. When I look at these two right away, and it might be different for you, I saw 7. So I know that I can divide the top and the bottom by 7 because 28 divided by 7 is 4, and 42 divided by 7 is 6. But when I get down to 4/6, I'm not done because 4 and 6 can both be divided by 2, and I end up with 2/3. And to be finished with reducing fractions, it means you can't do any more. Now, with this one, you could have started with 14. If you divide the top and bottom by 14, it goes immediately to 2/3. But that's the goal. And of course, there's more than one way to get a lot of these answers. Like in number 2, 45 over 60. I saw 15. Well, 45 divided by 15 is 3. 60 divided by 15 is 4. A lot of people don't see that. So if you see 45 over 60, and you notice they end in a 5 and a 0, if you start with dividing by 5, you get 9/12. Then you can divide by 3, and you will still end up with 3/4. So there's more than one road to get to your end result. In number 3, we've got 7/13. Well, there is no number that goes equally into 7 and 13, so the reduced fraction will just be 7/13. Now, decimal equivalents, if you're, sometimes you want to change a fraction to a decimal, so round to 3 places when necessary. Now, I'm going to do number 4 with you, and then I'm going to ask you to hit pause and try the rest of them before you come back. So when you're taking 28 over 42, we're going to take 28 and then hit our divide sign and put 42 into your calculator. And it's going to come out 0.6666, and it keeps going on forever. But it says round to 3 decimal places. So 1, 2, I'm rounding here. I look one place past, 6 rounds up, so that's 0.667. Okay, I want you to hit pause and go ahead and try the rest and then come back and check your answers. So you see, for each of these, we start with the top number and we divide by the bottom. So top number divided by the bottom number gives us a decimal. And you'll see if they did not come out nicely. Number 6 and 8 came out nicely, so that's just our answers. For 5, 7, and 9, it went to more than 3 decimal places. So you can see in each one, I'm looking at the 3rd decimal, so I look one place past. If a number is 5 or above, you round up. Anything below 5, you round down. So hopefully those are the answers you got for those problems. All right, going to page 3. Now, if we're looking past, so if we have whole numbers, we might have like 10.324. Well, this decimal point is represented here, right? So then we have tenths, hundredths, thousandths, 10,000ths, 100,000ths, millions. So we have our place values, and that deals with decimal numbers, right? Now, when we're talking about decimals to percentages, percentage is out of 100. Anytime you hear the word percent, you should be thinking out of 100. So a percent, if I have 70%, that's like saying 70 out of 100, which is the same as 0.7. So in order to get from the decimal back to the percent, we simply move the place 2 to the right. It's like multiplying by 100 to get your 70%. Okay, so that was kind of a quick refresher on decimals and percentages, but we're going to play with those a little bit more here on page 4. So we're going to write each value as a percentage to the nearest tenth of a percent. Now, if you have a fraction over 100, that's kind of an easy one because percent is out of 100, so that's simply 20%. But sometimes it's not that easy, so you kind of get in the habit of changing your fraction to a decimal. Remember, top divided by bottom gives me 0.2. Move it 2 places to the right, same as multiplying by 100, and that gives me 20%. Okay, now for this one, I didn't need to round to the nearest tenth of a percent because it came out nicely. Now in number 11, you will see that it's given as a decimal. If I have a decimal already, to change it to a percent, I'm simply going to multiply by 100 or move my decimal 2 places. So 0.86 is the same as 86%. In number 12, 2 over 2,500, that's kind of big, right? 2,500. So I take 2 divided by 2,500, and I get the decimal of 0.0008. Okay, so I'm going to change that to a percent, 0.08%. But this is round to the nearest tenth. Tenth is right here. So I look at the 8 rounds up, so this is 0.1% to the nearest tenth of a percent. In 13, I divide 25 divided by 20, and I get 1.25. Move my decimal 2 places, and I end up with 125%. Now, if you think about it, 100% means everything. So 20 out of 20 would be 100%. Think about a score on a test. So 25 out of 20 is more than that, so it should be more than 100%. All right, 7 and 13, we take 7 divided by 13, which gives me 0.53846. 2 places gives me 53.84%. Remember, I want to go to the nearest tenth. 4 rounds down, and I end up with 53.8%. In the last one, we're already in decimal, so I just moved 2 places, and I'm at 9.5%. So decimal to a percent is easy. Move the decimal 2 places to the right. All right, next page. Sometimes it's helpful to have fractions with particular denominators. In this case, we're going to go fractions per 10. And there's, again, number of ways to do this. I'm going to do each one of these problems actually a little bit differently, and so that you can kind of see your different options. In number 1, you can see that you have a denominator of 100. If you have a denominator of 100, if I just move my decimal point, which remember, when you don't see the decimal point, it's automatically in at the end. So if it's at the end and I move it 1 place, I now have a 10, right? Well, if I move it 1 place in the bottom, I've got to move it 1 place in the top. So that reduces my fraction to 2 over 10. And all it says is write a fraction with 10 in the denominator. So for number 1, that's my answer. Now, number 2 is not quite as easy. My denominator is 8. So I want this fraction to have a denominator of 10. So I'm trying to find what would my numerator be. And we have ourselves a proportion, which we will really get into in a later section. So for proportions, I'm sure you've heard cross multiply at some point in your life, but I'm going to take 8 times x to get 8x, and then 3 times 10, which is 30. To get x by itself, I'm going to divide both sides by 8, and I end up with x equals 3.75. So this is x. That means my fraction would be 3.75 over 10 for number 2. Okay, now in number 3, we have 0.79. And if you think about, we're talking about fractions, well, this is 2 decimal places. 2 decimal places means it would be a fraction with 2 zeros with the 1. So this is like having 79 over 100. It's 79 hundredths if you read it mathematically correct. And just like in number 1, if I move my decimal over, I have a 10. So I move my decimal over, and that gives me 7.9 over 10. So a couple different ways you can do that. Now, on the next page, we're not going to play with denominators of 10. We're going to play with denominators of 1,000. And we're going to see what this is. So a couple different ways again to do that, but I'm going to go with cross multiplying. I think that by far is the easiest in my personal opinion if you're given a fraction. So again, I say 25 times x is 25x. 1,000 times 6 is 6,000. If I divide both sides by 25, I end up with an x value of 240. Therefore, my fraction would be 240 over 1,000, and that is equivalent to 6 over 25. Now in number 2, we have 0.321, and if you recall from a past section, or a past page, 3 places is thousandths. This is 321 thousandths. So this is already given to you, and that would be your fraction, because 3 decimal places goes over 3 zeros in the bottom. Now with number 3, I'm going to even do this a different way, because 2 is a nice easy number to work with here in the bottom. I know that I want a denominator of 1,000. Well, 2 times 500 gives me 1,000. So if I multiply the top by 500, right, got to be equal to both things, I end up with 1,500 over 1,000. So that number 3, that way, it doesn't always work out that nicely, but when you have a nice number like 2 and you're going to 1,000, that's not too bad to deal with. All right, the last part of this section deals with rounding. And I know that we've all rounded at some point in our life, so sometimes it's just good to have a little refresher. So recall that if the digit following what you want is less than 5, so 0 to 4, you round down, meaning it stays the same. If you're 5 or above, you round up and you go up to the next number. So the big key for these, is recognizing place value. So in number 1, we want 100. Well, 8 is in the 100 spot. That means 7 rounds up, so 8's going to move to 9, and the nearest 100 is 900. In number 2, nearest 100, well, the 5 is in the 100 spot. Anything in front stays the same, and now I look at that 4 rounds down, so I'm just going to be at 7,500, because 5 is what's going to be affected. It's either going to go up or it's going to stay the same, and because 4 is less than 5, it stays the same. I want you to try this page, so hit pause, try it, and then come back and hear the explanation. All right, you can see that I've underlined the place value. So number 3, nearest 10. 6 is in the 10 spot. I look at the 5 rounds up, and I end up with 1770. Everything in front of what the number you're looking at stays the same. So in number 4, round to the nearest whole number. 3 is in our whole number spot. 1 rounds down, so I'm just at 3. And number 5, 33.8 million to the nearest million. Well, the nearest million would be the 3 spot. 8 rounds up, so I have 34 million. And round to the nearest 10 billion. Well, 1's is the 6, and then 10 billion is the 1. So that puts me at 420 billion, because the 4 stays the same. It's in front of what's being affected, and you go from there. All right, number 7, nearest 100,000. Well, 5 is in the 100,000 spot. 4 rounds down, so 31,500,000 would be my rounded answer. Number 8 gets us into money. Would you ever say you have $8.3? No, right? We would say we had $8.30, because money is always talked about in terms of nearest hundredths, because hundredths is 2 decimal places, always. So whenever you're dealing with money, it's just a normal rule of thumb that if you're dealing with money, you want to go 2 decimal places always. So go ahead and try these 2, and then come back and look at them. So at number 10, we're round to the nearest cent. Cent is 2 decimal places. So I'm looking at the 6, and the 6 is my place, so I look at the 2 rounds down. Now everything in front of that 6 stays the same. In this case, the 6 stays the same too, because 2 rounds down, but that's one thing to be aware of. Okay, now number 11, round to the nearest dollar. So the underlined 9 is the nearest dollar. When I look past, I see 9. Now, when this 9 tells this to go up, if this 9 goes up to 10, we carry. This 9 goes up, we carry, and I end up with 5, and that's how I got 7,500, right? We got to carry up the whole thing. So with money, just make sure that you're paying attention. General rule of thumb, we're going to the nearest cent unless otherwise specified.